From the View My Sports studios, it's The Breakdown with your hosts, Roger Tillis and Chuck Olesker. Joining us today on The Breakdown is Charles Todd, father of View My Sport member Justin Todd, sharing with us a parent's perspective on the recruiting process. Hey, welcome to The Breakdown. We're glad to be hanging out with all of you out there in the View My Sport Nation. I'm your host, Roger Tillis.
And I'm Chuck Olesker.
Hey, Chuck. How's it going today?
Very well, very well. Excited for a third show.
Number 3.
Can you believe it?
No, it kind of freaks me out, actually, a little bit.
Because it's number 3, we kind of redecorated the studio a little bit as well.
Yes.
So we changed things up, made it a little bit better angles. And
Jenny
things.
likes it. Jenny Finch joining
That's
us
right.
in the studio. She looks a little flat today, but we'll try to perk her up a little.
That's right.
Yeah, we're going to
right.
do this every 3 shows, I think, Chuck. Let's just redesign, redecorate, keeps things fresh, keeps things snappy.
Right. Keeps it on our toes.
Keeps the stats right on our toes.
That's right. That's perfect. That's perfect.
Well, I tell you what, let's jump into it. We are very excited about our guest today. In the past, we've had high-profile guests, the superstars have been out there, the coaches and whatnot, and it's great to hear, their experience, obviously. That's something that we want. But when it comes to high school recruiting and the college ranks and whatnot, the big part of that whole operation are the parents. And we have today a fantastic guest. I'm very excited to have Charles Todd joining us today on The Breakdown. Charles, how you doing today, man?
Doing great. Happy to be here.
Good.
Excellent. Well, we're glad you can make time for us today. I know it's busy. You're getting ready to have spring football, dominating the family yet again.
Yep, exactly.
So I tell you, we're going to jump right into it because we have a lot of great information to cover today. Just to give everybody a little bit of background, first of all, why we have Charles on. Charles, in the early stages with his son, started having some questions, if you will, like all parents do when they have their kids that are playing sports, and not just playing, but playing pretty well. Mm-hmm. You start thinking the typical thoughts, I wonder, how he is going to transition into high school. I wonder if he'll be ever good enough to go into college. Right. And I know with your son, Justin, he showed some promising signs during the junior time. Mm-hmm. Now, the thing is, as with a lot of parents and with a lot of youth athletes, they're looking outstanding. They're great. They're whether
right.
they're the big fish in the little pond or whatever. The fact is they stand out. Now, Justin was a standout at the middle school youth level.
He was. Yeah.
Okay. Now, what all sports did he play? Kind of expand on that a little bit.
He played football, did a little bit of track and field. Mm-hmm. He went into baseball at an early age, but football became that was his love. That's what he wanted to do. He didn't want to do anything else. He wanted to stick with football. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's, it's good when they're young at that age. And I believe as he went through high school, he pretty much stuck to it. He's been I think you got him into track, so he wasn't just hanging out in the gym the whole time. You wanted him out doing something.
Exactly. And he started going into wrestling when he was in middle school, but he didn't want to wear the tights. So.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, there's something to be said for that. I wrestled, and that was probably the biggest fear. I could get pinned all day long, but, man, it was going out in front of the girls in those tights.
Exactly.
That was before I think they invented Nerf balls. So, you do the math, Well, now, let me ask you something. This is something that we this is on the table quite a bit, mm-hmm. and a lot of parents talk about this and kind of behind the scenes. The fact is, he was good, and he was better than good. I saw the video from when he was in 8th grade, just mowing down kids. Yeah. Some of the kids were a little smaller. Some were about his size. I mean, it wasn't like he was the gargantuan 6'9", 8th grader. I mean, but he was. Right. You could tell he had that athletic ability pretty early. Right. As he transitioned in high school, mm-hmm. did you start to see the playing field level off a bit? Did you see some of these other kids start growing? And you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. If you would, tell us about that.
Well, I'll tell you, the biggest thing with that transition from middle school to high school was him mentally. Mm-hmm. In his mind, he thought that he was still an 8th grader, and he would always talk to me and his mom about, I'm going to be playing against guys that are 17 years old. I'm only 13, 14 years old. How am I going to play against them?
He was getting in his own way.
Exactly. And Justin, with him joining with going to Oakleaf, it was a fairly new program, and he was about the right size for those guys that were there, and he kind of averaged out to be about the same size as some of them, and of course the linemen looked like giants, and but when he got out there and started practicing and playing, it took him a while to get in the high school mode mentally. He just kept defeating himself. He could not grasp the idea of playing against older kids.
Sure. Well, in the school, and you already touched on this, brand new school, you know, and whether the school itself was established or not, for him, it's brand new.
Right.
And like, I mean, you know, the sprawling campus, it's kind of like when kids go from, you know, a small high school to a big college.
Right.
They got to do that all over again.
Exactly.
But I could see, you know, and we are, you know, keep in mind, everybody, we are talking about kids.
Yeah.
I mean, even when they go into college, they're kids.
Right.
So there's a lot of that you know we might take for granted, but it's going to blow them away. I mean, just think back the first time I went to high school. Good God! I mean, it was terrifying, absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm talking about the girls, but you know that was.
Roger.
Okay, now you've got a son here who obviously has talent. You see him doing real well. You know, you start setting your sights on the high school level and whatnot. I mean, and be honest.
All right.
When he was mowing down kids in the middle school league and the association, and you're watching them out there playing, did you start seeing the Alabama helmet on it?
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, quick.
and you notice I
Quick.
said Alabama. I didn't
Yeah.
say anybody. Alabama.
That's right. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, we would, we go to practice, and it was like a family event. His mom was there, I was there, his sisters, his brother. We wanted to watch Justin play. And, honestly, it's the same way. I might even take the day off work when their first day in pads. But he was looking great. And, we came here from South Carolina, and he played great there. And then when we got here, we was like, okay, that Florida is like the elite of the elite.
The hotbed.
Right, that's where all the players come from. And how is Justin going to fit in when he gets in Florida? Well, Justin was a standout. In the 8th grade, he had to actually make the team. He wasn't automatically put on the team. And nobody knew him. He came in as a third-string running back, and within the first 2 weeks of practice, he was first string.
Wow. So he definitely proved himself.
Right. And then he moved into not only playing that, they moved him and wanted him to play both ways, wanted to play linebacker. So then when one of the safeties got hurt, they had him playing safety. So Justin was playing at all these positions, and he was excelling at all of them. So I, of course, started thinking, oh, he's got it.
He's got something
He's
special.
got something special. And, and that's when I started trying to figure out what do I need to do as a parent to get him the exposure that it's going to take for him to get a college degree. And that's my goal, is for him to get to college and use what the talent he has to get into college.
Sure.
And get that education.
It's funny, and you talked about, the first thought, the thing that popped in your head, you kind of leapfrog everything, and the immediate thought is, how can I get him exposure?
Right.
And it's the exposure and the college.
Right.
And that's where I think a lot of parents run into the problem. They don't know enough to fill in those gaps on both sides of that vision.
Right.
And that's where, of course, that's where we come in, viewmysport.com and others out there. I mean, that's our goal. Our goal is to help educate and get individuals there, which really, it's the whole purpose of our show. Our show is to share the experience and the wisdom and the, the different situations, so that parents out there like you who are maybe just starting out, that's why we're here. So, but yeah, I see that being, it would be for me. It's a natural thought process.
Oh, yeah.
Now, let me ask you something. When you were there and that was your thought, did you immediately try to start talking to college coaches to try to get them? What did you do at that time? What was your first move?
First move was to record his videos of his games, even when he was in Little League, and put them on YouTube. And then I would contact high school coaches and tell the high school coaches, this is my son. We're going to be coming to your school, because originally we were going to go to Orange Park. And so,
I remember.
Yeah, and so I contacted the Orange Park coaching staff and told them, this is my son. We're going to be coming to your school and want to see what. Just want you to get a feel for him and see what he can do. And then we did the same thing when we decided we were going to go to Oakleaf. Did the same thing there. We actually set up a meeting to go and meet the head coach at Oakleaf.
I got to stop you there. This is something that you don't hear a lot about it, but here you are with the middle schooler, the youth child athlete, student athlete, and you were basically handling it like it was a recruiting situation to a small degree.
Right.
I'm investigating the schools. I'm talking to the coaches. You're already doing to the high school level what most high school athletes and parents are doing in the for the collegiate level.
Right.
I mean, it's really quite interesting that you took that approach and had that kind of proactive involvement. Now, to add to that, and I wanted to talk about this a little bit because I remember you and I had this conversation. So, I know Charles from the beginning days of ViewMySport.com. He was one of our first members. His son was one of the first athletes. So he's kind of like my son. I'm just sort of watching him grow. But I remember the situation where you were looking at several different high schools. You had Bowles in your crosshairs. You had Orange Park, Oakleaf. And I believe there was a point, and this is really funny, if I'm not mistaken, and correct me if I'm wrong, Justin and his friends were either at breakfast or lunch in the cafeteria. And in comes the high school coach from, I believe, Orange Park, was it?
Exactly, yep.
Comes in, the coach and the staff, hey, boys, how you doing? Sits down. I mean, you would have thought that it was akin to Steve Spurrier walking in to the high school cafeteria. And, of course, everybody was just, whoa. And the fact that he took that time, the high school coach took that time, I mean, that says something.
Right.
I mean, it's competitive to get the right players. Now, obviously you have to live in the right region and whatnot.
Right.
And this is something Chuck and I had a long discussion about when we were prepping for the show. The madness that is out there with some parents, and we talked about this, I think, our first show, where we had the guy that moved from Rhode Island to Texas because, by gosh, that was where, that's where the competition was, where his son could shine because he was a stud and outgrowing the talent in Rhode Island. So he uprooted his whole family and moved all the way to Texas just to get his kid into a high school. By the way, kid still hasn't signed yet. Not going to give names,
there
but
you go.
so sometimes you can go to a dramatic degree of trying to help your son in this area, and it's still not pan out. But that's really that's interesting. Now to that degree. And the involvement that you already had at that point, and you're putting the videos out on YouTube and whatnot.
Right.
Were you talking to any coaches? Had you had any type of correspondence, be email, letters, telephone? I mean, did you have any communication that you initiated or that you heard, via the YouTube from any college coaches?
Well, I'll tell you what I did. I created my own personal database of coaches. I would go to the coach's website and then look up and try to find their email address and started emailing the coaches. Of course, they can't respond to me.
Right.
But I knew that there was a chance that they were seeing Justin's video.
Sure.
My thought process was that they would know that name whenever they heard it because I would aggravate them to death.
Hey, bad attention's better than no attention.
Right.
I mean,
Right. And what I did, it was me and my boys were sitting watching TV, and we saw a View My Sport commercial. And we saw the commercial.
Selfish plug.
And I said, you know what? I'm going to contact that guy to see what it costs to get on his website and what's involved. And because it's like he's already stepped up and is doing what I'm trying to figure out what to do.
And let me ask you, and the cost now, how much did they charge you for all the services that ViewMySport.com gave you?
It was absolutely free.
Absolutely free. Oh, That is music to any parent's
Yes.
ears, especially with kids in high
Yes.
school. Thank you for that plug. Where's the money? We'll slide it on the
All
table
right.
later.
Well, let me ask you, as you were going through this process, and decide. I mean, obviously there are thousands of colleges and universities across the country. I mean, had you narrowed down a list based on geographic location, or what Justin wants to do maybe in life as an adult, or what was your criteria for what were your criteria for?
I can answer Alabama. in case nobody out there is Alabama. He is an Alabama Roll Tide.
That's right.
I didn't think Justin stood a chance, but no, go ahead and answer the question. I know he was a little more broad-minded than
That's
that.
right.
So.
Originally it was, at that point in time, it was geographical.
Okay.
And so I was looking at D1, D2, NAIA. I was looking at all schools, all levels. And I just started reaching out to all of them. And when I plugged in with View My Sport, he already had that database there.
Right.
So that just fed my fire.
Okay.
And I put it out there.
Good.
Now, going back to the high school that you chose Oakleaf, brand new school,
Yep.
first year of existence. There's some positives and negatives
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Obviously, the one big positive is brand new school, playing time. I don't
Exactly.
I don't have a bunch of seniors ahead of me because they don't have a senior class. We're all there are seniors at the school and whatnot, but there's nobody that you're trying to knock out of a position. It was kind of a clear slate.
Right.
The negative also happens to be the exact same thing. How do you know who's that good? How do you Tell us about that journey at the beginning of what that was like.
Yeah, that was tough. That was tough.
And to make that type of decision, knowing that your son who has athletic ability, you had to be thinking, if I get him in here, what if they all stink? There's no competition. There's no challenge. That's not going to look real good on the stats for him. How does he show what he's capable of?
Right.
I tell you what, do me a favor. Think about that. We're going to take a quick break. Okay. We're going to, I see Chuck over there doing the dance. He probably has to go to the bathroom or something. Actually, I think he forgot to put one of his beers in the refrigerator, so it's getting warm. So we'll take a quick break. We'll be back in a few minutes. Be sure to tune back in. Are you a high school athlete? Parent of a high school athlete, maybe a high school coach or a college coach looking for a high school athlete, or just a fan of high school and college sports, then you need the View Recruit mobile recruiting app. It's got everything. Athletes can create profiles, including their highlight videos. They can use the Recruit Network to send their profiles directly to college coaches. If a coach likes your profile, great. You get a notice directly on your mobile device and receive an email to boot. College coaches can receive updates directly on their devices and use the search function to find the talent that fits their program. Whether you're an athlete or a college coach, it's like having your very own recruiting department right at your fingertips. Download the View Recruit app now on iTunes for your iPhone, iPad, or iPod Touch. Be part of the #1 high school athletics and college coaching network. Get it today, the View Recruit mobile recruiting app. All right, and we're back. If you're just joining us now here on the Breakdown, we have Charles Todd with us, a respectable parent, and I say that loosely. No, I'm just kidding. I know Charles pretty well, he and his son Justin. He's here in the studio sharing his experience, where he started with his son, getting him into high school, recognizing his talent, and the trials and tribulations, the things that they've gone through the recruiting process early on, and where he's at right now. The nice thing about this is that Charles is one of you parents. He started out not knowing anything. He started out trying to capitalize on what he thought he knew and expand on that and do the right things. He was proactive. If you don't understand that word, look it up. Proactive, meaning he took the active role, the bull by the horns, and started doing what he felt was right. Even if he was going down the wrong path, he was doing something, and then he was able to be educated and expand on that. And it's been a great I'm sure some days been a crazy journey, and I've been fortunate enough to know Charles since the beginning of his days when he first signed up his son on viewmysport.com. Again, it's really a treat to have you here in the studio with us, Charles. And again, I thank you for being here. I tell you what, before we get going, though, we want to jump into some good information, pick up where we left off. But before we do that, it's time to recognize our viewmysport.com Athlete of the Week.
And our View My Sport Athlete of the Week this week is Kennedy Long from Derby High School in Derby, Kansas. Go Panthers.
Yeah.
She plays softball. She's a second baseman. Additionally, she plays basketball and has played golf. She's a member of the Honor Roll Society.
Nice.
And she likes to pass on the message that she works as hard in the classroom as she does on the field, in the gym, and on the course. So congratulations, Kennedy, for being View My Sports Athlete of the Week.
Hot dog. Hey, way to go, Kennedy. And great message, too. The grades, we were talking about that on the break. The grades are important, and we'll get into that later in the show. But if you think that comes second to the skills and the talent, you need to start over again. That's all I'll say about that at this time. All right, now let's get back into where we left off before the break. Now, we were talking about the positives and negatives as far as getting into a brand new high school, a school that had no athletic program, no classrooms, they had nothing. Everything was brand spanking new. Kind of cool because you go in with really the ultra clean slate. But for a dad with his son who was an up and coming star, in your mind as far as football, and he was proven. You made the daring choice to take him to a brand new program that had no track record. Tell us about that.
Well, I think the deciding factor was, we knew that with a new program, they would probably have the best teachers that could come out and just going in and trying to establish themselves. With the school was going to try and start off on a good foot. So they were going to try and get the best of the best.
Nice.
And so then, as far as sports go, Justin is a kid that I felt like had the talent. I felt that if he went to a new school, then it would be early playing time. Because one of the things, when I was meeting and talking with the coaches at Orange Park, they said that he would probably start out on JV, which I don't have a problem with that.
Sure, pay your dues.
Right. And then I was talking, and when I met with the coach at Oakleaf, he said, it's a clean slate. Everybody's going to get a shot.
Best players play regardless of what class they're in. Outstanding. Outstanding that he didn't come in with those preconceived, plans that he had in other schools. He came in literally trying something pretty fresh.
Right.
Outstanding.
Right. And so that, I was thinking, that's about the best that we can get.
Sure. Now, did you think, though, and again, I'm not trying to be the negative Nancy, although I think my brother would call me a Nancy. But the fact is, though, to think of the flip side of that coin, geez, it is a new program. Yeah, okay, my kid can, as a freshman, make a starting position. Does that mean he's going to be getting a hole stomped in him every Friday night when he's facing the more established teams?
Right.
Is that going to actually hurt him from a talent perspective? College coaches might be out there to watch someone else and see your son getting drug up one end and down the other. Did that kind of thought kick in your head, or did you think, what, it is what it is? Tell us about that.
Yeah, it definitely did. It played a big role, and Justin did get injured in his first year, his freshman year. He had a neck sprain, and it hindered him the whole year, his freshman year, but Justin was still able to excel. And that experience from that freshman year, the experience that he got, when I said earlier that he had a mind barrier about, I don't know if I can play against these kids. Well, after maybe half of the season, that barrier was gone. He had the mindset, well, they're no different than I am.
They're just kids.
They're just kids. And I can play with these guys. And then you saw him transition into a more confident, better player, and he played with more confidence. He didn't hesitate to step in there and make a hit. Or
You felt like you belonged.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and you're right. The advantage there, where most kids, I'll say most, because you're going to have, the superstars from the start and whatnot.
Right.
They have the attitude all the way through. But for most of your usual kids, they don't really start growing and get that confidence until they step into maybe at the end of their sophomore, going into their junior year.
Right.
And then and even as juniors, it's like, God, you still got the cloud over your head because of the seniors in front of me and the coach's attitudes about underclassmen and whatnot. You get to shake that out in year one, man. You've got 3 valuable years ahead of you to be really honing your skills. You're not in your way anymore. Now it's, how far am I going to go?
Right.
Did he have a little chip on his shoulder? Maybe being an underclassman. I mean, because again, all those guys were new too, but they were still seniors, juniors.
Exactly. And so, when he stepped in there and then he stepped it up and started playing Justin type football without fear, without hesitation. So he did catch the eyes of different college scouts, and because he was such a young guy, he was a freshman, but he was able to shine on the field at the same time.
Sure.
And
they saw that potential.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we know for a fact his freshman year that University of South Florida had someone that would come to all of his games and watch him and talk with him on the sideline. They were just coming to check him out. And
in South Florida, if I'm not mistaken, that was one of the first schools that you communicated with via VMS too.
Exactly.
Now they're still in the hunt, so to speak. I mean, they're probably they probably got you on speed dial by now.
Yeah, they were one of the first.
You'll get Christmas cards and
Yeah.
Well, and again, I'll throw this in. I mean, this is a perfect example, just what we're talking about. With South Florida as the example, starting that early. Now, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, the fact is, that you've got some schools that are paying attention. You no longer have the weight on your shoulder of exposure. I got it. He's got exposure. It may not be with everybody, but it's with a lot of colleges.
Right.
Now you can focus on I'm playing, and I'm studying.
Right.
The exposure aspect I've done often, I've done early, and I'm keeping it up to date.
Right.
And that's a great part of the plan.
Right.
Excellent. Now, something I want to ask you about though, and again, this goes without saying, in any school you can face this, but on top of the fact that you were going to a new school with a new program and a new coach. And by God, I think in like 3 years while Justin's been there, you've had 2 or 3 coaching changes.
Exactly.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
I mean, that in any program is just a wreck.
Right.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. One thing, new program, new school, it definitely hiccups. But I never left it. I never had the I never felt like it was a coach's responsibility to get Justin recruited by a college.
Good point. Excellent point.
That factor didn't weigh into my decision because, I've met a lot of parents and they get angry with the coach if their son isn't being contacted by colleges or anything. But I knew that Justin's my son. He's my main focus. The coach has 80-some kids to take care of.
Not to mention teaching
Exactly.
potentially and all of that comes with that. Sure.
Right. So with Oakleaf, the first year, right as soon as the season was over, they lost their head coach. Second year, another coach stepped up. He was gone. So that's 2 different coaches in 2 years, 2 totally different systems, everything.
Starting over every
year.
Single time.
Right.
Though I think what's important here is that, and a lot of times we see even at the college level as kids start getting recruited, that they're choosing a school based on the coach. They're not choosing because of what the school can do for them. Here in this case, Justin's been able to persevere through the coach and stick his mind, solely on academics and football. It doesn't matter who the coach is.
Right.
It could be, some slob off the
He's proven
street.
he can overcome it.
Absolutely.
Sure.
That he's dynamic enough to persevere in whatever system any coach can throw at him, and that will go a long way for him. down the road as he approaches college.
Sure. Well, the flexibility, and Chuck, that's an excellent point for the kids that are, that have maybe signed or getting ready to sign, and they're looking ahead to college. And believe me, if you think that, I mean, there's thousands, hundreds of thousands of examples where kids have gone into the program, God, before they take the first snap in spring practice, coaching change.
Right.
Exactly.
All of a sudden they're like, ugh. And I think parents and everybody put so much weight into that. Just play.
Right.
I mean, okay, yes, great. If you're a wildcat quarterback or a running quarterback and all of a sudden you've got a drop back quarterback, coach that comes in, hey, man, thank your lucky stars. You're still there going to school. You know what? If it's really that big of a deal, transfer.
Right.
You can always transfer.
Right.
But you can't blame the coaches.
Right.
You certainly, and you bring up a really good point, and we talk about this all the time. As somebody accused me, oh, well, you're just, because you're hanging out with coaches all the time, you're always in their corner. I'm in everybody's corner.
Right.
I understand everything from all the angles, and I do understand what the coaches have to go through. Now, I'm not saying that every coach is spot on and does things the right way, but I'm saying as far as the focus, when it comes to recruiting, the fact is it is the parents' responsibility. Ain't the coach's checking account that money's not going to come out of. It's the parents that won't have to write the check. By God, I know and unfortunately my son didn't get to that level in football. But the fact is, if he was getting a scholarship and I'm not having to write the check, woo. You bet I'm going to be the one humping it all the way.
Right.
All the way. I'm not going to be putting it on anybody else.
Right.
So, tell you what, we're going to take another quick break. And when we come back, we'll be here again with our guest, Charles Todd. And we're going to get into some details from a recruiting side. We're going to share all kinds of information. I think you guys are going to be real excited. Please stay tuned. Join us in a few minutes. Hi there, this is Roger Tillis.
And Chuck Lusker from the BreakDown and ViewMySport.com.
Athletes Helping Everyone Reach Out Against Bullying was founded with the purpose of bringing awareness to and educating our youth about the lifelong effects of bullying and how they can prevent it.
Be a Hero Against Bullying is not about religion. It's not about politics. It's not about money. It's about compassion. It's about caring. It's about being a friend.
As an athlete, you carry a lot of influence among your peers. They admire and look up to you. A gesture as simple as inviting a target to sit down with you during lunch or walking into the next class can save lives. Student athletes are making their schools a safer place and saving lives just by being a friend.
Learn more about this anti-bullying campaign by visiting www.beaheroagainstbullying.org or visiting us on Facebook. Thank you.
All right, and we're back here at the Breakdown. Thanks for tuning in. Across from me here is Charles Todd, our great parent that agreed to come in and let us beat him up a little bit and pick his brain. And basically, because Chuck and I, we don't know squat, so we have to bring in the people that really know what's going on. We're business guys.
That's right.
No, it's we know a little bit. Trust me, very little, but it's a little bit.
That's right.
No, it is really good to have Charles here in the studio with us, being able to share the knowledge. Our goal, our whole foundation underneath ViewMySport.com when we first started this company was about helping the kids, helping the parents, educate the process. We're not trying to make $1 million. We're not trying to exploit the kids for our financial well-being. The sole purpose, help the kids. So in doing these shows, as another conduit out to the parents and to the athletes and to the coaches and anybody else who is interested in listening and trying to gain some insight. I mean, if we help just one kid, by God, I'm going to sleep pretty good at night. Yeah. And of course, up to this point, we've helped thousands.
Yeah.
That means I'm really sleeping good. Hey, it is what it is. That's why we're here.
That's right, exactly.
All right, tell you what, let's get back into the questions now. And we've talked about some great stuff. Charles's situation with his son Justin is a little bit unique. I'm not going to say that he's the only one. I'm sure that there's obviously been kids that have had to go to new schools or have had to decide which out of the types of schools that we're going to pick. He made a daring, bold decision by going with a brand new program with a son who in all rights, is a superstar. I mean, they saw his talent. That's, I mean, when you're watching him, I mean, I watched the video when, he even had the little diamond earring. I mean, he was the little model out there, but boy, he could run the ball. It was pretty evident from a parent's perspective. You see someone like that, what do you think? Superstar. Kid's going all the way. I'm already buying tickets to the Super Bowl. I mean, that's, these parents get into that mindset. And so it's really good to be able to talk about the realities of that. All the parents think all their kids are going to be awesome. It happens. Rarely, you have the ones that are pretty realistic from the word go. But the fact is, it happens. So we're trying to share the realism of what it's like to go into a situation with a really good athlete and a good student and still see the trials that you face. They face the same thing as everybody else does. Yep. And the fact is, you better strap it on and do things right. Otherwise, these offers and all the superstardom and whatnot could become nothing. Tell you what, here's a little knowledge I'll lay on you. You could still do it right and still not get the offer.
Right.
So tear up those tickets to the Super Bowl and start over.
That's right.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. Now, we talked about the coaching changes. We talked about all the craziness. Now, I don't even know if I want to ask you this, but I mean, the fact is, you had 3 coaches in 3 bloody years. I mean, did any of them step out and say, "Hey, we're going to give you a hand with your recruiting process"? I mean, what, or was it even a non-factor? Was it all Charles Incorporated doing it?
It was all me.
All
me.
you.
And then I will say that the new coach that they brought in, his junior year, he really has stepped up and started trying to bring in college coaches to come watch the team practice. And he's really using his connections to bring, get some exposure for the team.
Nice.
He really has. And that's been a very big welcome help.
Especially for, having a couple of years where it was, you're just in the shadows, period.
Exactly.
You were like the Kentucky Colonels to the Harlem Globetrotters. I mean, you were the team that everybody wanted to play on homecoming night.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. Okay. That's exactly right.
Gotcha. So that's good. Now, do you recall some of the schools, small schools, large schools, a little bit of mix? I mean, who was he able to bring in to take a gander?
Oh, well, he has brought in, I think it was last spring, we had Troy University come in.
Nice.
We had Samford out of Alabama. Then we had someone came in from Boston College.
Oh
very
wow.
nice.
So, and UCF. UCF, he was actually a student at UCF and played football for UCF. The head coach did. And so he still has some connections there.
Well done. Well done. Good for the and let's give the coach props. Now, is this Coach
Chipoletti?
Chipoletti.
Yeah.
Very nice. Now, we talk about the questions that the high school athletes and parents should be asking the college coaches, and it seems that, and of course I know we talked about this, how it doesn't matter who the coach is, and but up front it's kind of nice to have a feeling of the stick-to-itiveness of that coach.
Right.
I mean, has anybody boldly asked the coach, so, how many months are you going to be here, instead of years? Or does he seem like he's committed, for the long haul to make this a stellar program?
I think when he first came, everyone was kind of skeptical.
As
Everyone
they should be,
right?
Yeah.
They were asking those questions. And he told them, he said, "This is back home for me." He said, "I grew up, graduated from Orange Park High School. My dad coached at Fleming Island.
Oh, nice.
So this is home."
This is all in Clay County in Florida,
right,
so all these schools, that's a big family tie.
And so he said, "I'm home. I'm here for good."
Excellent.
So I think he's got his roots.
Nice.
Planted,
Now, and again, just to confirm, when you are talking to the coaches as a high school or athlete or parent, feel free to ask these coaches anything. Catch them off guard. You have the right. Don't be intimidated. Yeah, I know it's hard to want to snatch Steve Spurrier's visor off his head and slap him with it, but maybe you don't have to go to that degree. But by gosh, ask him. So, Coach, you going to be sticking around? Any retirement plans? How long do you plan on taking the helm here? What brought you here?
Right.
What is it about this school, this program that you like? Now, you may get a canned response, but by God, you better get a response.
Right.
And that'll make the athlete, and I keep saying athlete or their parent, really this is what the Parents don't need to be talking to the coaches, not at this point. It should be the athletes that are asking the questions, the athletes that are picking up the phone calling, because the coach wants to see how they handle themselves.
Right.
Write this down. Let your athlete, your child athlete, do the phone calling to the coaches. Yeah, you might get his answering machine or his voicemail or his assistant. Leave a great message.
Right.
Use proper diction. No yo, what's up crap. I mean, it's amazing. You ought to see some of the messages that we see typed out with the profiles that are going, oh my gosh, they're tremendous. This isn't texting. This isn't Facebook. This is, a plea to show what type of person you are and the smarts you have. What's the old adage? You have one chance to make a first impression.
Right.
So you better make it a good one. So again, have the kids doing all the connections. Have the kids doing the talking. Have the kids asking the question. Now, with that said, parents, grill them, prepare them.
Right.
Get them set. By gosh, you're going to spend thousands of dollars on training them, at special facilities and combines and camps and all that, which we'll get into that in a minute.
Yep.
Spend a little time getting them prepared just to talk, just to communicate, and I think that will go extremely far with the coaches, as we've proven that it has.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
okay, now let me ask you, and we talked a little bit about this already. Early in the process, you were thinking recruiting. Okay,
Right.
so and you've told us, this is what I've done. Now, of course, now where you're at, and you look back, what do you think that you would do different? Now, and I'll inject this again, shameless plug time. You obviously said, whoa, viewmysport.com. We have all the tools and resources. It's free. You were able to do exactly what you wanted to do using our tools. It doesn't matter whose tools you're using, as long as they're the right tools and you're using them effectively, proactively, et cetera.
Right.
But even going to that route, looking back, do you see anything that you think, man, I wish I would have done that different, or I wish I would have made that choice, or do you feel like, man, I've done what I can do? How do you feel at this point?
Well, I started. First thing I did, there was berecruited.com.
Sorry, I had a tickle in my throat.
Chuck, you forgot to hit the mute
Chuck,
button.
you're supposed to mute that. You're supposed to. I don't. It was like I think I threw up in my mouth a little bit. I'm sorry. Go ahead. There we go.
Well,
okay, so you went to another company and you were okay.
This was before I saw your commercial.
I got you. I'm pulling your leg.
Yeah. So I went that route, but then you get to the point where, in order for your profile to be seen by coaches, you're going to have to or join for $75 or $125, and so then I would back up. I'm not going to pay for it. Well, I can just go ahead and continue doing it myself. And so I learned that you don't have to join those that are asking for money in order to get your son exposed or your daughter exposed.
Sure. Well, and I want to jump in here and make sure that that everybody understands. The coaches and college coaches will tell you this. I am not so interested in talking to a scout or a rep or whatever they call themselves from these companies, because I know they're peddling who they get paid to peddle. It's kind of like the guy, peddling the stocks. What's he going to call you and tell you that is the best thing? Not what probably is the best thing for you. It's the stock of the day.
Right.
Well, these guys, and so they're not necessarily. Now that doesn't mean that the kids that pay aren't talented, but the fact is these coaches aren't making a decision based on who paid the biggest fee.
Right.
They just want the talent.
Right.
So the fact is, don't gauge the success of your recruiting process based on how much money you spend. Matter of fact, you may end up finding out that the more you spend, the less you get.
Right.
And
Exactly.
so that I'm glad you touched on that, because that's one of our mantras, and it's good to hear a parent that has been there and understands that.
Right.
So good point. Keep going. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, another thing I learned was, after Justin's sophomore year, we felt like we needed to go to every combine that came around. And so we went to Orlando. We would travel to Tampa or wherever else, and we even went to Miami once. And
That's real cheap, isn't it?
Yeah. Just for him to go to these different combines and trying to get him exposure that way.
How'd that work out?
Well, no. No.
It's okay. It's okay. You're among friends.
Right.
You can. I think I already know the answer, but I want to hear it from the parent's mouth, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the fact is, he went through all the combines. How much exposure? How many coaches were lined up at the fence just waiting to sign him?
Not a one. Not any.
Let me expand on this a bit and to make sure that the parents understand why we even bring this up. And this is a bit of a sore point with us purists, especially as far as high school sports go. The fact is, I think combines and camps have an outstanding place in the grand scheme of things. They sure do. It's fun. Man, you go and you're standing across, hey, I know that kid. He plays at whatever school, across the neighborhood or whatever the case may be. The fact is, it's awesome to strap it on and compete in skills. Come on. Kids in high school, I mean, they're full of testosterone and they're all the best. They all want to compete and they all want to show their stuff, And the fact is, that's a great environment for them to go. And, okay, I ran the 40 here. I did the shuttle this. It doesn't mean a whole lot, It can, but again, it's about competition. So there's a fun aspect. Some of these weekend camps or week-long camps, you get out with all your buddies, and it's fun, and it's getting away from your parents, you hope, and, so there is that element. Where we have a problem is when the guys stand in front of the masses and say, you want to go to college, you want to get discovered, you want to, make sure that you're getting the offers. By God, you better be at our combine because of the coaches, the exposure. We get you this, we get you that.
Right.
Well, the fact is, they don't.
Exactly.
And in a lot of cases, the coaches aren't even allowed to be there. The guy might drive by the parking lot so he can say, yeah, I was there, but the fact is, these are money makers. And I don't care if it's NUC. I don't care if it's Red Zone. Now, some of the free ones, like Nike, Spark, now some of these, they're just fun to go to. But guess what? There are coaches and services that pay to get those lists of all those kids that went. Tell you what, you go to a combine. Maybe you didn't pay. Maybe you did. How soon before the bloody telephone's ringing? Oh, so-and-so, hey, got your information. We're interested. Blah, blah, blah. You get the pitch.
Email is just
Blowing up.
Yep.
Because they bought. That's where the money exchange is.
Yeah.
They're not charging you. They're charging the guys that want a piece of the list. It's business. We get it. Again, we have a problem where it's peddled that, oh man, to get here, you got to be there.
Right.
I was a guest speaker at a group, City Streets to Student Athletes. Matter of fact, it's a local group here. Coach Rodney Blunt takes the kids through the paces every Sunday afternoon for a few hours. He has volunteer coaches. Great thing. We'll probably have him on as a guest at a later date. But I was a guest speaker there. And they had another gentleman there who was going to have his little dog and pony show. And he was ahead of me. And he represented a combine that was coming up. And he stated directly, for any of you that have aspirations to play your sport at the collegiate level, you have to be at this combine. Yeah. We will track you. We will give you this. We will give you that. Blah, 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 blah. But if you want to play, you need to be here. It took me severe self-control not to snap him like a twig. And I could have done it. I could have taken him.
Yeah.
But it was because of the kids that I held back. But the fact is, that's wrong. That's what we don't agree with.
Right.
To me, that's where the good old-fashioned word rip-off and shyster enters the equation. And it's because of these organizations that exploit, the kids and make financial gains off of their dreams and whatnot. I mean, they're the ones that are ruining, I think, the pure aspects of the high school sports.
Right.
Exactly.
And I think they're injecting what really isn't there. So we carry the torch and do try to combat against that. Now, again, I'm not saying that every single combine is bad or every single camp. I love college camps. Matter of fact, college camps are great.
Yeah.
I think, matter of fact, they're probably the only camps that you can go to and get maybe a little evaluation, true evaluation from the coach. But you better have it planned before you go to the camp. Don't show up thinking you're going to get it because you and 900 of your closest friends are all vying for it.
Right.
You call them, several weeks ahead of time, maybe a month ahead of time, say, hey, we're going to be at your camp on this day. Can we maybe get 5 or 10 minutes? You set a date. That's the way you do it. There is no other way around it. So, sorry, I didn't want to beat a dead horse on that, but by God, that's a horse I'm probably going to whip to death between now and my time, you know. So please, if you didn't pick up anything else from the show today, understand that, and if you have more questions and you want to inquire about it, please go to viewmysport.com, click on the Contact Us box in the menu, and send over your question or your feedback. We'll be more than happy to help out. So anyway, I think that's about all we're going to do on the combines. I mean, I know we can talk a long time about that, but I think you made the point. The fact is, don't spend the money. It's not really worth it from that perspective.
Right.
Go and have fun. Go and have fun and enjoy it and compete. But don't feel like if you're missing out if you don't do it,
right?
Because that's not the case,
right?
And it'll keep your email from blowing up.
Exactly.
All right. Tell you what. Let's do this. Let's go ahead and break now. I know we had kind of a long-winded session there. Let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll tackle the rest of these questions, get some of the great information as far as academics and community service. 2 points that you better write down, because if you think it's not important in the scholarship race, you are crazy. And this man right here is going to tell you exactly why. So we'll be back in a few minutes. Please join us. There are thousands of high school athletes that want to play at the college level. They just don't get noticed. At viewmysport.com, we get your game out of the shadows and into the college spotlight. It's fast, easy, best of all, it's free. In the time you can text your friends, you can create and send your own athlete profile to as many colleges as you want. Get to the next level. Visit viewmysport.com today and follow the 3 simple steps. Why wait? Your competition's not. Welcome back to the Breakdown. Thanks all of you out there in View My Sport Nation for visiting with us today. Joining us on the set is Charles Todd, parent of a kid that really we hope will end up signing and going on to play at the collegiate level. At this point, we're not counting our chickens until the national letter of intent signed. So
that's right.
Up to that point, what do? We just grind and work and enjoy it all the way.
Absolutely.
As long as we do. We meaning parents, the student athlete, the student athlete taking care of business in their sport, in practice, in the gym, in the community, in the classroom. As long as they're doing what they're supposed to do, the parent is doing what they're supposed to be doing as far as the support network, teaching them how to talk to the coaches, keeping them organized, kind of following through the recruiting process. That's their job. And as long as that's done, everything else, you kind of just got to wait and see. It's sort of like when I cook. I really never know what it's going to taste like. I just throw it all in, stir it up, and pray,
And I can testify to that.
Oh, that's the last time you're coming to my house for dinner. All right. Well, we ended the last segment, and we were talking about combines and camps and whatnot, and Charles brought up a really good point. Charles, if you would, share, again, your quick summary of the camp and whatnot. What's the appeal there for you?
Well, when we go to combines, even if it is a free one, you still have to deal with vendors. There are vendors, and a lot of them will get that plug-in time to market their product and say, this has this kind of nutrients. This protein shake will make your kid this much better. And,
Sure.
And we'll give them the energy to make it through workouts and all that. So
use our equipment.
Yes, and even those recruiting sites that charge you, they're there.
Sure.
And they're doing the same thing. And from what Coach Cipoletti said, I'm going to quote him on this.
Sure.
That you should, if the college coaches want your kid, they'll be there. They'll contact you. They'll contact the coach. They'll call you. They'll send letters, whatever communication they have, but it will be done through the coach or directly to you.
Sure.
It doesn't have to go through a combine.
Excellent. Well, and again, where some will say, but the combine's where you get the exposure. That's where the carrot's dangled. Well, we already know that that's not true.
Right.
So what is the purpose of the combine other than what we've already talked about? So great point. Thank you very much for sharing that. That's nice, candid information from he who has been.
That's right.
mean, you understand the process from a parent standpoint. You're the one having to ignore the phone every night when it's ringing off the hook, or delete all those emails every time they're blowing up. Well, I understand that. I certainly do. Well, I tell you what, this has been a great show, and there's all kinds of things that we can, get into. We could talk forever, as with most of our topics. The thing that I'd like to end on, and really, we could have probably talked the whole show about the scholastic aspect.
Yes, yeah.
And I will never get tired of bringing this up during any show because it is so important. And you'll hear the athletes, the coaches, everybody talk about this. The fact is, grades can open up the scholarship door more than just talent. Now, I'm not saying just a academic scholarship in general and you don't play sports. I'm saying that if you're an athlete, to be a smarter athlete with a higher GPA than the standard just to barely get in, that will open more doors for you. Now, Charles, you're a pretty astute fellow. I mean, when we met, you had it together. I saw how you handled Justin, and I'm not saying that every parent needs to be just like Charles. But the fact is, when I met Justin when he was young, yes, sir, no, sir, well-behaved, good kid, personable kid. I felt that he was probably a pretty good student. I mean, can you elaborate on that a little bit as far as what kind of student he is?
He's definitely a good student. He straight A's and B's, and
outstanding.
Whenever his grades dip, then we restrict him from certain things.
Take the white rhino away from him, do you?
Exactly.
That's what he nicknamed his car or his truck. So, I saw that I think on Facebook.
Yeah. And so that was the route that we took with making sure that his grades were up to par, because what we did, we met with his guidance counselor.
Excellent.
And his guidance counselor told us that his GPA has to be at this level, but he also has to have all certain core classes, and they have to, like, your elective don't count towards his core GPA.
Right.
And the colleges will only look at that core GPA. And if he is lacking, then he may need to go to summer school to pick it up.
You mean you can't just get an A in art class to boost that GPA?
No.
Used to be general GPA, and so you could take all these hack classes to get your GPA up, and you couldn't spell your name, but by God, you could make a nice wood cutout of of whatever you want.
Right.
So well, that's good, and you bring up a great point. Guidance counselors. I know that it's like taboo. It's almost like being in the principal's office. Hey, ain't nothing wrong with hanging out with the guidance counselor on a regular basis to make sure. You could be going like a bat out of Hades, but you could be going in the wrong direction. These guidance counselors are great tools and resources to use.
Right.
And you've proven, it's worked very well for Justin.
Yes. And speaking with college coaches, they would rather take a kid that has a good GPA and subpar skills over a kid that's got great skills and a bad GPA, because they feel like they could teach a smart kid.
Well, and they'd rather be working on his skills on the field than having to get him tutors and track them through the library. Yeah.
Right.
No, I've heard that. I've heard that a lot.
So the grades and more so now, I see that the grades are the big part. That's one of the main things that they look at when the coaches come and they talk with Justin. Mm-hmm. They ask the head coach, "Can we see his film and his transcript?"
Right.
That's what they want. They want his film, transcript.
Sure.
They don't care about what he did at a combine or at a camp. They want to see his film and his transcript.
Excellent. Well, and the fact remains, I mean, they want to know after the season, which I don't know if there is an after the season in college football. It's pretty darn 365. But the fact is, they have to know these kids are going to school, they're excelling, they're becoming good human beings, and they're good representation of the program.
Right.
Not just the football program, but the program, meaning the college.
Right.
So that, and it all speaks volumes.
Right.
Excellent.
And one thing that I'll just say this real quick, the social networks, they are monitored. The colleges are really monitoring the social networks also.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And there have been several kids that have lost scholarship offers because of the things they put on Twitter or Facebook.
Sure.
Yeah,
the kid from, was it Ohio State or one of the, up in that region had, big recruit. Mm-hmm. Tell you what, you think you're beyond the law, so to speak? Adios.
Right.
They cut him loose because of something stupid that he did on Facebook. Here's the thing. Everybody's got to understand. There are hundreds of thousands of athletes out there across the nation, globally. There's kids coming over from other countries that are trying to get these scholarships. So you have that number, and we talk about this all the time. There's only so many scholarships. So if you don't think that one little thing that you do wrong could come back and bite you, it certainly can,
Right.
because the coaches have to use something as the tiebreaker. Used to be just skill. Well, now it's skill, and now it's grades. Used to be. Now they look at community service, and community service is big. What kind of person, what kind of human being is my recruit that I'm bringing into the folds here? Matter of fact, speaking of which, now I've seen Justin as part of, matter of fact, we have an Athletes Give Back segment on viewmysport.com where we highlight an athlete or a team or a school where they've done something unique in the community. And I believe right now he is one of the group of Oakley football players who rallied around one of their teammates who was going through, I think, Hodgkin's disease, if I'm not mistaken, or something of that nature.
Yes.
So now beyond that, I mean, Justin pretty active in the community. I mean, what kind of stuff is he out there doing?
Justin volunteers to go to the middle school and read stories to the special needs class.
Outstanding.
Very good.
And so he'll do that. I think it's once a week that they do that.
So he's not out, refereeing flag football, because
No.
it's in his wheelhouse. He's actually stepping out of the comfort zone then.
Right.
That's outstanding.
Right.
Good.
That is fantastic. Well, that's, I mean, and again, a lot of kids, parents even, look at community services. Oh, it's just another requirement I have to fulfill to be able to, put it on the resume to go to college. No, come on, man. Get active in your community. We can all sit around and complain about it. Get active. All you're doing, hopefully, is having a positive impact on the future.
Right.
And nothing's better than helping. Nothing's
Right.
better. It
Exactly.
feels great. That's what we do. That's what we try to get others to do. And I think the more people out there that recognize that the community service work really does mean something. I mean, all the kids and parents that are involved in it, and I get them from all over the place, and I see their pictures and their stories, and it's fantastic, and the smiles, and I'm just thinking, man, how can you not want to do that?
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
So, well, I tell you what, we've covered a lot of information. I mean, there's a lot more. I'm going to let you close it out, Charles. I mean, if talking to the View My Sport Nation, the parents, the kids, I mean, if you could have one or two solid bits that you want to hammer home, you're top of the list, what is it that you would want to say to them as far as helping these people out that are getting ready to go through the process?
Is get involved in your child's recruitment. Get involved in their academics. They're looking for a total package. They want a kid that is a great person with his character, his grades, his talent, and just his tenacity, his drive to succeed. So they're looking at the total package because they have hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table and jobs on the line. So they're going to try to make sure they get the best. So just get involved in the aspect of your children as far as everything that they have to get done, and don't leave it to the coaches. Take control yourself.
Very valid. Yep.
Yep. Well said. Well said. And whether it's today or whether it's 2 years from now, looking back, I think that would have been excellent advice for a lot of people. Yeah. So if this is something tried and true. Okay, and I think that's going to be a wrap. We've had a great show today. All of you out there in View My Sport Nation, thank you so much for tuning in. Show number 3 in the books.
That's right.
We're going to be here for a long, long time. We own the studio, so we can do what we want. So we will be here for as long as we want. But the fact is, we've had a great time, and we hope to continue bringing the knowledge that will be helpful. Again, don't wait to watch the show. If you need help, if there's anything at all that you need, please just contact us through the viewmysport.com website. Ask questions. Ask any of us except for Chuck, because remember, he doesn't know anything.
That's right.
So anyway, we look forward to seeing you next week. From myself, from Chuck, from everyone here at the viewmysport.com studios, thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget, next Wednesday and every Wednesday from 12 to 1, you can go to our BreakDown page on viewmysport.com's website. Tune in, and hopefully you'll pick up some great knowledge, and we'll just move on from there. But remember, enjoy the ride.
Enjoy the ride.
See you, everybody.